You wake up. The pain has been building for hours. There is no hospital nearby. No doctor. No epidural, no sterile room, no fetal heart rate monitor. Just the darkness of a rock shelter, the smell of smoke from a dying fire, and someone breathing close beside you. For 300,000 years, this was how humans entered the world. Today, childbirth in a hospital feels like the default. It feels like the way things were always done. But the fluorescent lights, the drip, the surgical team on standby, all of that is an experiment. A very recent one. And the body you were born into was shaped by a completely different world, tuned by hundreds of thousands of years of trial, loss, and survival. So what actually happened when your ancestors gave birth? The first thing to understand is that human childbirth is genuinely strange. Uniquely strange. Biologically costly in a way that almost no other animal comes close to. And the reason for that strangeness is the same reason you can read these words right now. Your brain. About 2 million years ago, the human lineage made a trade. Bigger brains, in exchange for higher risk at birth. As Homo habilis gave way to Homo erectus, and eventually to Homo sapiens, skull size grew dramatically. The neocortex expanded. The prefrontal cortex thickened. And with every generation, the head a newborn needed to push through the birth canal grew larger, while the passage it had to travel through stayed constrained by the demands of walking upright. This is what evolutionary biologist Karen Rosenberg at the University of Delaware has called the obstetric dilemma. Your pelvis is shaped for bipedal locomotion. Your baby's head is shaped for thinking. And those two requirements are, to put it plainly, almost incompatible. To solve this, human infants evolved a remarkable trick. They rotate. Unlike virtually every other primate, a human baby exits the birth canal facing backward, toward the mother's spine, rather than forward, toward her face. This rotation, described in detail in Rosenberg and Wenda Trevathan's landmark 1995 paper in Scientific American, means the baby must make a 90-degree turn mid-delivery just to clear the pelvic outlet. It happens automatically. But it is not easy. And it means the baby emerges in a direction the mother cannot safely reach without risking injury to the infant's fragile neck. Think about what that means. Every other primate can assist its own infant during birth. A chimpanzee, a gorilla, a bonobo, the mother reaches down, feels her infant emerging face first, and guides it out. Human mothers cannot do this safely. The rotational exit makes self-delivery not just difficult but genuinely dangerous. A hand placed at the wrong angle can damage the newborn's spine before it has taken its first breath. This is almost certainly why human birth became a social act. Wenda Trevathan, a biological anthropologist at New Mexico State University, has argued that assisted birth, birth attended by at least one other person, is one of the oldest human behaviors. Older than language. Older than agriculture. Possibly as old as the species itself. Which means that 300,000 years ago, in a rock shelter somewhere in what is now Africa, there was already someone sitting beside a laboring woman. A mother, a sister, a woman who had done this before and who carried in her body the knowledge that could mean the difference between survival and death. Let us reconstruct what that looked like. Labor would have begun the same way it begins today. A dull, rhythmic pressure in the lower back. A slow tightening that came in waves, each one stronger than the last. The difference is that your ancestor had no way to time contractions, no way to predict how long this would last, and no way to summon help beyond the people already within earshot of the camp. The birth itself would most likely have taken place with the woman upright, or crouching. Not lying flat on her back. Skeletal evidence from Neanderthal sites, including the well-preserved remains found at Taban Cave in Israel, shows that these closely related hominins had the wide, rounded pelvic inlets typical of bipedal humans, meaning they faced the same rotational birth challenge we do. Upright or squatting positions use gravity to assist the baby's descent. They also reduce dangerous compression on the major blood vessels running behind the uterus. The flat-on-your-back position common in modern Western hospitals was popularized largely for the convenience of the attending physician during the 17th and 18th centuries, not because it was better for the mother or the baby. Your body, shaped by 300,000 years of selection pressure, was built for something closer to a squat. Someone would have been there to receive the baby. The infant would have emerged slippery, quiet, and covered in vernix, the white waxy coating that protects fetal skin in the womb and eases passage through the canal. The attendant would have checked the cord immediately. A nuchal cord, a loop of umbilical cord wrapped around the infant's neck, occurs in roughly 25 to 30% of all births and requires quick, calm hands to slip free. In a world without intervention, a cord that tightened at the wrong moment could cut off oxygen for critical seconds. The knowledge of how to recognize it, how to handle it, how to stay calm, that knowledge was carried in the hands and memories of experienced women, not written in any book. If the birth went well, the baby would take its first breath. The cry would come. And then came the placenta. The third stage of labor, the delivery of the placenta, is today routinely managed with synthetic oxytocin. In the ancient world, it happened on its own, typically within 30 minutes. The placenta was almost certainly consumed or buried promptly. Comparative primate behavior, evidence from dozens of traditional cultures studied by anthropologists, and the basic logic of predator avoidance all point in the same direction. A fresh placenta left exposed at the edge of a camp is a scent beacon. In a landscape where hyenas and leopards track prey by smell, that was not a risk any band would take. But the danger did not end with delivery. Postpartum hemorrhage, severe bleeding after birth, remains, even today, the single leading cause of maternal death worldwide. Before blood transfusions, before synthetic hormones, before surgical suturing, a woman who bled heavily after delivery had almost no options beyond rest, pressure, and the care of those around her. Comparative data from pre-industrial societies compiled by scholars including evolutionary anthropologist Sarah Blaffer Hrdy suggest maternal mortality rates 10 to 50 times higher than in modern clinical settings. Your ancestors lived with this knowledge. Every woman in a hunter-gatherer band had almost certainly watched another woman struggle to survive childbirth. That reality shaped everything, the seriousness with which experienced women were respected, the care taken to attend every birth, the communal investment in making sure the mother survived not just delivery, but the weeks that followed it. Which is why the social architecture of childbirth was already elaborate among the earliest Homo sapiens. James Sussman, in his extensive field work with the Jukhontsi people of the Kalahari, one of the most studied hunter-gatherer populations on Earth, documents deep communal knowledge around birth maintained entirely through oral transmission. Older women served as specialists. Knowledge was not written down. It was passed hand to hand, body to body, across generations. A woman who had attended 30 births knew things no textbook could capture, the subtle difference between productive labor and the kind that was going wrong, the pressure on a particular point of the lower back that helped a baby rotate, the first quiet sign that something needed to change. The newborn itself arrived fragile, and would remain so for years. Human infants are born neurologically incomplete. The brain at birth is roughly 28% of its adult volume, far less developed than that of any other primate at birth. A foal stands within hours. A human infant cannot lift its own head for weeks, cannot walk for over a year, and will not reach basic cognitive independence for years more. This helplessness is not an accident. It is a direct consequence of the obstetric dilemma: the brain must exit the pelvis before it grows too large to fit, and then it finishes developing on the outside, in the world, in the arms of other people. In a hunter-gatherer band of 20 to 50 individuals, that vulnerability was met collectively. Your ancestor's infant was not raised in isolation by two exhausted adults. It was held, watched, nursed, and carried by a rotating web of caregivers, grandmothers, older sisters, women whose own children were grown, childless adults who shared the load. Sarah Blaffer Hrdy calls this cooperative breeding. And she makes a compelling case that this deep structure of shared infant care may be one of the foundational roots of human social intelligence itself. The capacity for empathy, the instinct to read another person's emotional state, the drive to share resources across a group, all of it may have been honed, over hundreds of thousands of years, by the relentless demands of keeping neurologically unfinished infants alive. Now here is the part that should reframe everything you just read. Your body has not changed. The pelvis you carry today is the same pelvis your ancestors carried. The obstetric dilemma is unresolved. The rotation still happens. The neural incompleteness at birth still demands years of intensive communal care. Modern medicine has dramatically reduced the risk of dying in childbirth, and that is not a small thing. It is one of the most significant achievements in human history, but it has not changed the underlying biology. It has wrapped an ancient, precarious process in extraordinary new tools. When a woman in labor today grips someone's hand, she is repeating a gesture that is 300,000 years old. When a midwife speaks quietly in a dark room in the middle of the night, she is part of an unbroken lineage of knowledge keepers who carried what they knew through every generation that came before writing, before cities, before medicine as we know it. You woke up into a world that made birth safer than it has ever been. That safety was earned by every woman who survived. And by every woman who did not.